The second major problem with Eternals is that all of the characters in it don't change as the story progresses. They're all exactly the same as who they were at the beginning, just with new circumstances. This is mainly due to how Eternals chooses to deal with its main theme, where our heroes represent protecting what is, and our villains represent moving on to what can be. It's a good theme in and of itself, but rather than have a message be learned by our heroes to show that all our struggle is actually for something, the movie just separates the heroes' individual situations from the theme completely, and has them all know their unwavering position on the theme from the beginning, for no other reason than that's apparently just what they believe. As a result, the only forms of character change that make it into the movie are facades. The first being change that's instantly reversed. Druig doesn't face any challenges that force him to realize that humanity's flaws are a part of who they are. He leaves the Eternals, apparently does it off screen, says so, and then comes back because the plot needs him. We don't see Phastos struggle with regaining faith in humanity in a compelling way over time. He leaves the Eternals, apparently does it off screen, and says so. Then when the Eternals ask him to come back, he says a couple of sentences before coming back because the plot needs him. I get that Phastos' decision isn't random. Finally, say that 10 times fast. But for the audience to feel that, you have to show your work, because when you don't, your plot turns into an artificial monster that pushes the story forward inorganically or nonsensically, because that's what the plot needs to happen.
We'll need Phastos.
He gave up on humans a long time ago.
Oh, that's great. You can't just show up in my life and expect me to go with you. I'm not gonna. You want me to go?
The second kind of fake change that Eternals tries to use on its characters is physical change without character change. At the end of the movie, Cersei magically changes Sprite into a real human being, which again we don't care about because we never had enough time with her to connect with her and her issue. We don't notice Sprite being attracted to Ikaris, or even notice Kingo noticing her being attracted to Ikaris. He just says it to throw in another conflict that as a result comes off as nothing but contrived. And yeah, she's almost literally a new person in the end, but it's a guise. Her character hasn't changed at all. Sprite doesn't learn the story's lesson. She cares about people at the start, to the point where she's willing to sacrifice humanity to make the pain of longing for someone go away, and then when that doesn't work out, she gets what she wants anyway. In her case, the theme doesn't even matter. She has the same values as she did at the beginning. The final fake kind of change that Eternals tries to use is that they put the same character in a new situation. I mean, other than what I said before, the characters are exactly the same as they were at the beginning. They don't change at all. The best and most aggravating example of this is Cersei, our main character. She doesn't choose to go against Arishem during the story, having already known his plan, but learning throughout the story that some things aren't worth sacrificing. She goes against Arishem immediately after learning his plan because she already knows, as a character, that some things aren't worth sacrificing. That was the most concise way I could put it. I know it's still a little clunky. In summation, her character hasn't grown, her morals haven't changed, her circumstances have. She's just reacting as she would have from the start to this new information. The theme of the movie isn't learned, it's known. When it comes to the theme, representation just isn't enough. I know that despite all this, the movie is still very aware of its main theme of protecting what is versus moving on to what can be, but it attacks the issue from the wrong angle. They put in 3 villains to represent the negative side of the theme, but the overall value is still weak because the heroes don't defeat them by learning the positive side. They win because one villain is thrown away, another one is sidelined, and the most important one just bails. On the hero side, Thena's character practically represents the theme with her choice to hold on to who she is, but she doesn't overcome her situation in the end by learning anything. She does it because the plot says that the finale is the time to overcome it. The movie makes the theme a part of its characters from the start, which sounds like a good idea, but doesn't work because we don't know why the heroes are on the positive side of the theme in the first place. Saying that's just who they are isn't enough. At that point, you're separating who the character is from the lessons they should be learning. Not a bingo! A way to fix all of these issues is to have the characters learn the themes throughout the story. Take a movie which handles theme idea very well. Captain America: Civil War. The main theme of protecting what is versus moving on to what can be is basically the Sokovia Accords of the Eternals. It's what drives our heroes apart and forces them into conflict. It's the idea we're fighting over. Except in Civil War, we already knew and cared about the characters from the beginning, because we had 8 prior movies to build a connection to them. We knew and empathized with why they stood where they did on their big thematic issue. Even with the character they introduced in Civil War, they still built his emotional premise into the plot enough and carved out enough time for him individually for us to care about or at least understand why emotionally he did what he did. Eternals tries to squeeze out the same kind of conflict without putting any of the initial work in first. It introduces us to the characters and then tells us where they stand on the issue because the characters just say so. A way to fix this is by treating the theme as a path for your character where they make their way toward its correct side throughout the story. Maybe the Eternals didn't start out as beings with very human emotions and values already. Maybe they actually were more machine-like at the start and bound to their mission of growing the Earth's population. But that special thing about humanity that Ajax mentions isn't just a cliche catch-all, but it's specifically the human ability to care about protecting something instead of nihilistically embracing change. Maybe the Eternals know about the emergence from the beginning, and they decide in the end to stop it because of how their humanity has grown throughout the movie, except for Icarus, whose dedication to Arishem is unshaken to the point where he now embodies the beginning ideology of moving on, even from those closest to you, and the rest of the Eternals now have to physically defeat him and at the same time symbolically defeat the representation of who they all used to be. By starting characters off on the incorrect side of the theme, you force their journey to its correct side over the course of the story to feel meaningful, which is kind of important because if your story doesn't feel meaningful, what's the point of experiencing it?